agree.
Agree. Yeah. Item 3, apologies for absence.
Apologies received from councillors Sean Thomas, Richard McBride and Kathleen Loman.
Yes, Chairman, would you add Councillor Parker to the list?
Councillor. Item 4, declarations of members' interest. Item 5 is Chairman's announcements. I suppose I ought to announce that last year I did get some confusion about standing up and sitting down for reasons best known to members, because Alan remains seated most of the time, and it's a little bit confusing. However, I do apologise to Chairman's announcements. I have visited a number of other districts and attended quite a number of events during the last couple of months or so. Too numerous to talk about here. Apart from the fact that one event which I attended does deserve mention, and that was the Kerala boat race at Draycott Water, which was a special event organised by the UK Kerala community. There are about 50,000 Kerala people living in the UK. And of course Kerala is that sun-kissed tropical region on the southern tip of India. And the event was organised to celebrate the 70th anniversary of independence for India, and also to celebrate the long historic relationship between India and the United Kingdom, and to express mutual respect that we have for each other, which may be important in years to come, particularly important. Apart from the excitement of the snake boat races, which they brought here, there was also the ceremony, which lasted an awful long time, about an hour. It was attended by the High Commissioner for India and civic dignitaries from across the Midlands, from Oxfordshire to the West Midlands, places like Nuneaton, Bedworth, Redditch and so on, as well as Rugby, the host local authority. And it was very, very moving, because they put a lot of time into organising the event, and they played the national anthems of both India and the United Kingdom, and the flag raising too, and the speeches didn't go on for forever and ever, but it was a very, very moving experience and very well done. I don't know how many thousand people were there. I've been to Draycott Water a few times and I've never seen so many people there. In fact, even at one stage, Adam Parking was joining the field. That's how big it was. And they're hoping to make it an annual event. So if they do, it's an event well worth attending next year, next time it happens. So that's the one that sticks out most in mind. Other than that, I had lots of enjoyable functions, garden parties, civic services and so on. Now, the next thing I have to announce is that Councillor Connors completed the 1 Million Steps Challenge, and his Just Giving site raised £205 for the Macmillan Appeal. The cake sale, which we hosted here at the council offices last Friday, raised, quite astonishing really, £265.74. Special thanks to the staff of Daventry District Council for some of them baked cakes for it, and all of them, most of them put their hands in their pockets and bought those cakes, because there was an awful lot on sale here. So that's more funds for my chosen charity of the year, Macmillan. So so I'm very grateful to them for that. And I think that's all I want to say under the Chairman's announcements, apart from the fact to repeat that my civic service, the coronation, is on Sunday at the Holy Cross Church across the way. Thank you. At 3 o'clock. Next item on the agenda, questions under Council Procedure Rules 10 and 11. 1, to answer questions from members of the public, if any. The first question is from Abigail Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. My question is addressed to Councillor Miller. The Education and Skills Funding Agency reassigned the lease of the UTC building to the Park of the Academy this summer. Can you tell me, and other parents and children at the school, who benefits from this council not permanently lifting the clause on the lease which prevents under 14s from learning in that former UTC building? And I'd like to add thank you to Councillor Miller for taking my call on this subject a few weeks ago.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to thank Mrs. Campbell, Abigail Campbell, and it's nice to see you back in the chamber, not quite the same role we once were. But I want to thank you for the question. The provision of education, Chairman, is important to this council, and the reason is because we have a major growth agenda, as you know. We have thousands of houses still to come into Daventry, and have been in the past, so therefore it's very important we have good education provision in the town. And the reason why Daventry in particular, because across our district we do have good schools, but Daventry, in the past has maybe below average performance, and obviously we're very keen to make sure that when people come to live in Daventry, the children in this area go to schools or colleges in Daventry. And I think that's very, very critical. The point that specifically Mrs. Campbell relates to on the UTC building, actually, it's been agreed that the current lease has been agreed by EAP, by the Park Academy and by ourselves. So the current lease actually does say that only children over the age of 14 can use that building. However, we are in discussion with the school because we understand the school wants to change that lease. So we are in discussions at the moment to make that arrangement. Now, just for clarity, this council has put in about £200 million into the UTC coming to Daventry. And the reason why that's important for us as a council, because the UTC was designed to actually train young people into vocational training for jobs. And the jobs at Daventry, of course, are going to increase, and that's why what's behind our involvement in that UTC building was to make sure we provide the education for children who are going to work in this area, hopefully, with Daventry and surrounding area. And therefore, that's why we put in £2 million of our own money in terms of land and cash. The cash is about 250,000, and the rest was actually land value, which that land could be used for other purposes. And we're delighted to do that. So it's very, very disappointing for us, actually, when the UTC didn't work out as planned, which isn't obviously our responsibility, but we felt very bad about that. And therefore, we wanted that building to be used for educational purposes moving forward. So in one sense, because we as a council have the responsibility for the taxpayer for our money, it's very, very important we try and get some value out. We're not asking for the to give us £2 million back. What we are saying is, can you provide, we're asking actually, can you make some provision for your facilities to be used outside school hours for the general population? And I know I've been talking today about Moulton. Moulton do this, and it works really well for the local community. So all we're doing with a discussion with the app, and we're talking to the top of the app, about whether that's possible or not, where we can have a negotiated position, where we can have that, the detail of that still yet to be agreed. But that's what our purpose is. Then on that way, we've got a win-win situation. Firstly, in the current situation, the building's being used for education. Secondly, if we can get that agreement, then obviously Park at EAP can then use that for the children of all ages, and also the local community also get a benefit. So that's what we're aiming for, Chairman. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
Question 2, question from Chris Myers to Councillor Chris Miller, Leader of the Council. Chris Myers.
At the District Council meeting on July the 27th, Councillor Stephen Osborne alleged that the Labour-controlled council, which ran from 1995 to 99, had made the council all but bankrupt. However, After a Conservative administration was replaced by a Labour-led one in 1995, the DDC's financial performance in fact improved to the extent that in May 1999 the Audit Commission rated DDC as the third best performing local authority in the country. Will the Leader of the Council assure us that ill-founded allegations about the supposed financial incompetence of a previous administration will no longer be tolerated?
Councillor Miller.
Yeah, thank you much indeed, and I'd like to thank Mr Myers for his question. I want to just get one or two things right here. That Councillor Osborne obviously made that statement. I want to just make the point here about the difference between that Labour-led administration between 95 and 99 and what's happened since by the Conservative-led administration since 1999. The actual problems came to light in 2000, of course, when we realised that the situation the previous Labour administration left us in was a very dire one. The revenue account had a major hit on it in terms of it wasn't sustainable, the budgets were not sustainable, and ever since then we determined, Chairman, to actually set sustainable budgets. We set sustainable and prudent budgets to ensure we maximise the benefit to our taxpayers and we don't play around with council tax. One example of that, Chairman, was in 1999, the Labour administration reduced their council tax by a substantial percentage to actually put down the average tax of £19.99 a year. Nice gimmick, £19.99 in the year 1999. The reality of that decision, of course, bearing in mind that the revenue cost was still increasing, was clearly one that was not sustainable and hasn't been. So what we learned from that exercise, and that's the main difference between the Labour-led administration at that time and the Conservative one ever since, has been we set balanced budgets, we set prudent budgets, and we maximise the benefit for our community. And I think the lesson the Labour-led administration, maybe in hindsight, might want to think about playing around with council tax, playing around with the politics of actually messing around with budgets just to give a good impression, doesn't always pay off. So from my point of view, it's about being sensible, setting long-term budgets, long-term objectives, and trying to achieve them in the most prudent way. Thank you, Chairman.
Question from Councillor Ken Ritchie to Councillor Chris Miller, Leader of the Council.
Thank you, Chair. Will the Leader of the Council tell us when DDC is going to take action to reduce speeding in Ashby Road, Daventry, and in particular, why, when consultants were commissioned early last year to assess road safety in Ashby Road, and a programme of works was subsequently agreed, no action has yet been taken? Secondly, why DDC felt it necessary to ask the Town Council to meet the £5,700 cost of preparing a quote, a detailed quote for the proposed work, rather than meeting the cost itself? And thirdly, what at present is preventing progress in carrying out the work? And what are the risks of DDC being held in part responsible should a serious accident occur, which arguably might have been avoided if the proposed work had been undertaken?
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Ritchie, for that question. It needs to be understood, of course, that the Highways Authority is Northampton County Council, it's not this authority, that's the first point. So therefore, we don't have responsibility for highways, even though also we take the safety of our residents very seriously. If I can come back to your questions, if I try and answer them as you asked them. We've been leading on this, by the way, to try and see if something can be done, but of course the County Council are telling us this is not one of their priorities in terms of their road improvement schemes. That's what they're telling us. And also they have roads all over the county that require attention, and I guess they have a system for working out what their priority order is. We wanted to put forward that we're working on a proposal, but the thing here is NCC have drawn up plans based on those that were produced as a result of the road safety assessment initiated by DDC. NCC require £5,700 to work up the engineering details and costs of the schemes. I think that's the figure you're referring to, Councillor Ritchie. Until this is paid, it's difficult for any proposal to be put forward to Council to request funding. The Town Council are partners in the Community Safety Partnership, and we're aware of the issues. They have indicated that they might be willing to fund these costs. However, while they're willing to put the money into the scheme, they're not prepared to pay an upfront fee when there could be no guarantee that this will result in the works being carried out. Now, in our villages, of course, parish councils have a similar function of the town council. Town council's bigger because obviously the town's bigger. I think it's down to those individual bodies what they decide to do or not do, so I'm not going to question what they want to do or don't do. I think the point here is, though, this is not a DDC function, and we have tried to make this work. Now, the county council obviously is saying it's not a priority. We understand concerns have been raised, that we're willing to try and help the process, but we need all partners, ourselves, the county and the town council, to make this work together. And I think the point I would say there is that I think it's important, therefore, that don't put the focus on the Daventry district. The county council obviously have a responsibility to deliver a safe scheme. They're saying the road is safe. That's what they're saying basically. It's not a priority. And the town council, also the local parish council, can also put monies in if they wish to try and make this happen as well. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Richard.
Thank you for that response. I'm so puzzled. I mean, can I ask, clearly, although the road is a responsibility of the county council, Daventry District Council spent money in commissioning consultants to make a report on what changes would be needed. I can't understand why we would have done that if we felt it was nothing at all to do with us. And we have clearly accepted that in cases like that, there may be a need for this council spending money on issues that are related to highways and highway safety. It seems strange. I wonder if you could explain why we went that far, why there has been so much discussion, why there have been so many meetings involving council officers to find a way forwards for this, and yet, if the response is merely that, well, it's nothing to do with us really. It doesn't ring true. I would be grateful if you could explain why we have been involved, we as Daventry District Council have been involved so much in this whole process, if it was our view all along that it was nothing to do with us.
Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, first of all, I'm sorry if I gave that impression it's nothing to do with us. The point was we got involved because obviously we represent our communities. The point I'm trying to say to you, Council, which is we have no jurisdiction, we don't have we're not the highway authorities, we have no right to go on the roads and do works on the roads. So the point I'm trying to say to you is that the county council is saying this is not a priority scheme. When we started this process off, there's a lot of local comment about the fact this is an important priority. But the reality is, the county council or the highways authority, they're the ones who actually get the works done. We put some money in initially, as you're saying, and then the town council are also going to put money in to help the process, and then it seems to have stopped. So the point I'm trying to say to you is maybe it stopped because the county council is saying there's no need to do this because it's not a priority. The district council is saying, well, we wanted to help this process, but maybe in a way, even though the intentions were good, maybe it wasn't the right thing at this moment in time. And the town council, I presume, also seemed to me to be saying they wanted to get involved and make it happen. But they also seem to, I don't know what the town council's current position is, but things seem to have stopped. I'm not sure my colleague, Councillor Paul, can help because he was involved in that, Chairman, if I may allow him to say so. Is that possible?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Chairman. Very briefly, all parties, when I say all parties, headmasters, etc., interested parties in Ashby Road came together for a meeting. The meeting was about safety in Ashby Road. The police have continued with their assessment that it is not technically a dangerous road. One of the heads explained how he used to jump out on a pedestrian crossing star-like to stop the traffic. All that was well and good. During that meeting it was decided that a pedestrian crossing, a light-controlled pedestrian crossing, was needed outside the school. At that meeting they took a vote. I was the only one that voted against it, and at that meeting I promised that a technical survey would be carried out and it would be paid for by this council as a gesture of goodwill. Bearing in mind that I first got involved in this in 1996, 2007, I beg your pardon, 10 years ago, 2007. Many people will remember Gloria Edward Davison. So, having promised that a technical survey would be carried out, it was. The result of the technical survey come up with the fact that there are 4 pedestrian crossings in Ashby Road. If you put a set of traffic lights on one, not my idea, the highways, who I often have arguments with as members in here now. If you put lights on one, you make the other 3 far more dangerous. That was their conclusion. When we asked to get a quote, they said, we don't have any money to give you a quote. If you give us £5,700, we can present a quote. Meanwhile, as we put up money as a gesture of goodwill, approximately £8,000, I'm looking at the Chief Exec to nod, I thought it would be good party, good community relationships should the Town Council, who have been, in their words, not mine, in fact the current Mayor, banging on about this for years. And I thought it was a very simple matter that they would put aside £5,700 to do a quotation. However, 3 attempts and they've decided not to. We are where we are. It is technically not a dangerous road. Highways and police say it's not a dangerous road. So where do we go from here? We go cap in hand to the Highways Authority. We've presented the evidence. I'm not prepared to stand up as my portfolio and ask this council to spend any more money on that project. And I know all the T-jerk reactions about somebody could get killed and somebody could do this. Somebody could walk out that door and get killed in 10 minutes' time. That's not part of the question. It is the fact that it is the highways' responsibility. Our technical survey has come up with the answer, and that matches that of the highways and that of the police department. We are where we are. If the Labour Party have got the money to put forward, then fine. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Right, we'll move on now. No, I think this is turning into a debate. No, the question has been asked.
I was just going to say, I could feed back where the Town Council was on this, because...
Stand up.
Can I
Stand up.
Yes.
Chairman, point of order before she speaks, before Councillor speaks. I thought under this rule there was no debate, Chairman, and I asked you to follow that through. No debate, Chairman.
And for clarity, I was going to come back, being as I didn't think that any other councillor was allowed to speak either, but you've allowed Councillor Paul, and then I would give you clarity on what he said. So are you saying that I am not allowed to speak?
Yes.
Right, okay, thank you.
The next question is from Councillor Ritchie to Councillor David James, Chairman of the Council. Councillor Ritchie.
At the last meeting of the Council, the Chair of the Council asserted that this is my meeting. Will you tell us which part of the Constitution led you to believe that Council meetings belong to you?
So I thank Councillor Ritchie for his question, and I'll deal with it by reading a couple of extracts from the Constitution. First, in connection with my authority, which stems from Article 5, chairing the Council. In B2, my duty is to preside over the meetings of the Council so that its business can be carried out efficiently and with regard to the rights of councillors and the interests of the community. Now, this is more pertinent to individual councillors, but it applies across the piece. And this is Section 106, Interpretation of Full Council. The ruling of the Chairman of the Council, on the advice of the monitoring officer as to its constitution or application of this constitution, or as to any proceedings of the council, shall not be challenged at any meeting of the council. Such interpretation will have regard to the purposes of this constitution contained in Article 1. I can do no better than that. Councillor Richard.
Chair, I have the relevant parts of the Constitution in front of me. I noticed that the ruling of the Chair depends on having the advice of the monitoring officer. You didn't actually consult the monitoring officer at our last meeting. However, that is not the supplementary question that I want to put to you. Is it not the case that the Constitution that we have is the Constitution of Daventry District Council? Daventry District Council, having a constitution, is therefore effectively the sovereign body, within, of course, the limitations of legislation and budgets. It does not therefore belong to anyone. The chair, the role of the chair, is yes to preside in a way that makes the council effective in conducting its business, but that does not imply ownership. And I wonder if you would therefore accept that your choice of words was rather inappropriate.
Well, in answer to Councillor Rich's question, it's a matter of using ordinary, everyday English. People talk about owning their own home, owning the freehold. In fact, there is no such thing as ownership of land, if we're going to go into semantics. And I say this to you, it's as you see it. And I refer you again to this little line in 106, which says any proceedings of this council, the ruling of the chairman shall not be challenged. And I won't be challenged.
On the advice of the monitoring officer.
No, it doesn't say that on the advice of the
It says 106. It's in front of me.
Excuse me, Chair, if you're going to let members speak, would you ask them to stand up, please, or would they mind being quiet when you're speaking?
I'll answer this question. We'll move on. The next question is from Councillor Wendy Randall to Councillor Chris Miller, Leader of the Council.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Miller, why, when exam results are improving in Daventry, are we not doing everything we can to assist the education of children within the 2 senior schools?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to thank Councillor Randall for that question. The evidence actually says we are doing a lot for the schools in this town. We have an education forum which I chair, even though not the education authority, but we do that to try and bring investment into Daventry in terms of new buildings, which you've seen in the colleges. We have both the schools round that table, well, we're one head now, or 2 heads again actually, that's the 2 heads. They are present in those forums, and this council has worked hard over many years to make sure we see improvements to all the education facilities where we can in the town. And why we say the town, Chairman, is because across the district, there's 2 main other schools in the district. It really is about the performance has always been down to the town, been where the problems have rested. Of course, Councillor Randall may be referring to the earlier question from Mrs Campbell, in which case I think I've answered that more fully, about the UCC buildings. That's where you're coming from. But it's not because we're not concerned about the rest of the district, but we've got to focus where the problems are. And obviously we're looking to get a spawn school to Daventry, which we think will complement and help to improve longer term education facilities in the town. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Randall.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Miller, for that. And yes, part of my question would have been referring to the UTC building, and you did partly answer that to Councillor Campbell.
Mrs Campbell.
Mrs Campbell, about the community using the facilities of the UTC. And I'm sure, I think I've even heard, or there was something in the paper, that the school is more than willing to use the school for the community. I think, they already do that at Parker as well as the SLB. I think it's more a fact of how this is being. You've said about getting a return back on the money. You haven't actually said whether who's going to benefit from the community using the school, because as we know the school is undersubscribed, and I can see that the only way that you're saying maybe there's going to be a return is that you're going to be taking money some way or the other. So I assume that's what you're referring to on a return. And so do you mean that by the community using the UTC facilities, that the DDC will be recouping the money from any bookings that are taking place? So it's still, going back to my question at strategy, it's still very not out there in the open exactly what we're trying to achieve. And, you know, and as again, to me, the way forward, we should be doing everything we can to help the education within this town, and as you've stated many times that it's not the best, and when we have got this opportunity, I just don't understand why there has got to be negotiations in place when it could have just be a clause that is lifted on that age, so as they can benefit from using that college, from that university, and again taking in, you know, not having to do all this, we'll take the money or you'll take the money. Thank you, Chairman, if you're banging your hammer.
And we now move on.
Sorry, I want to answer that, Chairman. Thank you. Because obviously Councillor Randall hasn't listened to my original answer. And maybe it relates to the answer I gave to Mr Myers, because clearly this is how Labour would run this council. It could explain why sometimes financial difficulties arise. We actually have a £2 million investment in that building because it fitted in with our growth agenda for education for young adults training vocationally. And obviously as a taxpayer, you represent the taxpayers of the district, not the town, the whole district. We have a duty to actually represent value for money, and therefore the academy, the EAT Academy, are going to get a very nice facility for nothing. And all we're saying to them is, the lease at the moment they're happy with, they're actually in there, they've agreed the lease as it currently stands, and we're willing to discuss about changing that lease to allow them to use from 7 years to 7, 9 to 12. But in return, the local community, who are the taxpayers, will get an additional benefit of being able to use their facilities out of school hours. I think that's a very reasonable position. We're not asking for our money back. We're not asking to take the money from the use of those facilities. But obviously we're not negotiating here about what the terms are. That's between us and EAT aren't present tonight, and that will be done in private. I'd like to make a point, that's all it was, Chairman, just to get that clarity in place. Thank you.
And now we move on to motion under Council Procedure Rule 12. Consider the following motion, notice of which has been given under Council Procedure Rule 12 by Councillor Ritchie and Wendy Randall.
Thank you, Chair. Do you wish me to read the text of the resolution? I always like to think that people can accept it as read, but if it's useful for the...
Yes, I think we'll carry on, accept it as read.
Well, we brought this this motion. We've had a little bit of discussion at a meeting some months ago about whether customer was actually the appropriate term to use. And I do recognise that, you know, that Daventry district is far from the only local authority that refers to its service users as customers. And if by referring to them as customers, it emphasises that, you know, that we are here to provide services and to do it as best we can, then, well, it's not totally inappropriate. But I feel it doesn't effectively or accurately describe the relationship that should exist between a council and its residents. You know, shops like Tesco have customers. It's in their interest to serve the customers well so that they'll come back and buy more things. But we're not in a marketplace selling services. If people don't like Tesco's, they can go elsewhere. If people don't like Daventry District Council, they can't, unless they move house. People can influence Tesco's only through making their choices, the things that they choose to buy. Our residents are in a different position. They are essentially our shareholders, or in the same way as Tesco make our shareholders, it determines what Tesco is and what Tesco's policies are going to be. It's our electors that appoint us effectively as their board to manage services that are provided by the district council. I therefore feel that citizens better describes the status than residents. It better conveys the nature of a relationship. It gets across the idea that, people are not just passive recipients of council services that they either receive or they don't receive. They should actually be people who are much more engaged in what the council is actually doing. They have a sense of stake, a stake in the affairs of the district council. They are not merely passive. Now, I believe that language is important because the terms that we use somehow frame the way in which people perceive the society around about them. Not just even perceiving the society, it can lead to changes in that society. It's not new. It has been, these issues have been studied over the past half century and more. I'm sure that many of you will be familiar with the work that has been done in this sort of area. So the language does actually matter. And I just feel that when we're in a position, when we as a council, when we have elections, in many parts of this district, the turnouts are absolutely abysmal, certainly if they're purely local elections. When we have consultations, we have so few people that ever pay any attention to these consultations. We have not succeeded in engaging with those that we're supposed to represent. A small change like this clearly is not the solution to a very much bigger problem. But if we just changed to try to inculcate the view that people are citizens, they have the power, they effectively own us, so that they don't talk about our council, they don't talk about Daventry Council as if it was something that was remote, something that was aloof from them, something that many of them see as being somewhere between indifferent and hostile towards them. To change it to something where they felt a sense of responsibility for the council. Rather than talking about the council, to talk about my council, or people to talk about what they want our council to do. We're not suggesting in this that there need to be any great expenditure. There will be next to none. We're not suggesting that we tear up documents, just that when you come to write a new one, use the word citizen instead. If you come to reprint one, use the word citizen. Now, it's not, I say, it is not a big change. I don't claim that that in its own is the answer to how we actually get more engaged. But the indications are that it's things like that, it is our use of language, that change the way in which people perceive us. And that if we can start moving in that direction, it cannot be a bad thing. And if it reminds us too, Chair, what we are here for, that it's ultimately the residents who ought to be in charge, who ought to be sovereign, then that would be no bad thing.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Chairman.
Do you wish to speak?
I reserve my right to speak, Chairman, thank you.
I don't like, I'm speaking against the proposition, Chairman. I don't like it much. I go back to the 70s, and I'm sure many people in this chamber will, when there was a programme on television called The Young Ones. Do you remember it? There was a Citizen Smith in there, and he used to wear a berry, and he was a bit of an anarchist, a revolutionary. And the name Citizen always comes down to remembering that. It annoys me a little. This council does have customers, I mean, where do you think all the money comes from that we collect, that this council gets from renting out units, renting out shops? It's in competition with other people. It has customers. It also has services which this council has to compete with. Other people can compete with this council on certain services. Yes, there are things that you only have to come to the council for. It annoys me, the suggestion that, sorry, I can't hear very well, but I can hear people talking, Chairman. So I don't know who the heck it is, but
Can we have quiet?
I'm going to do something now, Chairman, that I never thought I'd ever do in 30 years. I'm going to propose an amendment to the proposition, but I don't want anybody to support it. I want a seconder for it, but I am making this because to show you how stupid I believe it is. And I'm going to propose that we call them comrades, okay? Now if we find that there's a seconder for it, Chairman, as this is an amendment, it'll get voted on first. I don't want you to vote for it, but I just want you to realise how stupid that comrades and citizens is. We've got a perfectly good relationship with the people out there and our customers, and we should look after them, Chairman. I'll make the proposition. I hope there's a seconder, but I shan't vote for it.
Councillor Paul, are you second?
I'm happy to second that amendment, Chairman, with one only comment, and sincerely may Brian Lomax rest in peace. Brian often brought this up, he often had it explained to him, and I'm happy to support that amendment. Thank you, Chairman.
Right, we have an amendment, and we've had it seconded, that the word citizens be changed to, or rather, customers be changed to commoners. Councillor Osborne's made it clear that he doesn't want
No, Chairman, that's not what I said. What I said was I would amend the proposition. And the proposition was to change it to citizen. So it's amended from citizen to comrade. And I'm not supporting either of them. So I'm not changing it from customer to comrade, but from citizen to comrade.
That's right.
Okay?
So the proposition will be regarding residents as comrades rather than citizens.
Rather than citizen.
Chairman, disregard it. Chairman, perhaps I could just help clarify. I believe the motion being submitted or put forward by Councillor Ritchie was that this council resolves that all future documents should refer to residents as citizens rather than customers. Councillor Osborne's motion or amendment is to change that so that it would read this council resolves that all future documents should refer to residents as comrades rather than customers.
But I said I wasn't voting for it, Chairman.
Well, all in favour of that amendment?
Sure, debate. And I have a right to respond to it. I will listen to the chair. Chair, I'm responding to the proposal of the amendment. I understand I will have an opportunity according to the Constitution in responding to the motion amended or unamended when it comes to that. I just want to say I'm surprised that we have been talking earlier about the importance of the Constitution and that you're willing to accept this sort of playground atmosphere in terms of how we use the Constitution, about how we amend motions, even if people have got no wish whatsoever. All I would say is that I would support Councillor Osborne's amendment on one condition, that Daventry District Council puts out a press release announcing that Councillor Stephen Osborne has proposed, put a proposal that he wants residents to refer to as comrades. If you're prepared to do that, then yes. If you feel that we're simply here for a laugh, then I'm prepared to join in the fun.
Well, Councillor Osborne has put forward an amendment. The amendment has been seconded. I don't have any choice now but to put it to the vote. Councillor Osborne has said that he doesn't want anybody to vote for it, so we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment? Any against? The amendment has failed. Now we go back to the original proposal. Councillor Longley.
Thank you, Chair. Well, when I first read the motion, I'm very interested in it. I'm very interested to hear what everybody might say, and I was very impressed with the eloquence, Councillor Ritchie, of how you presented your side of the argument. It was very good. So I thought what I'd do, I'd have a bit of a straw poll in the parishes which I represent, see what I thought. So I talked to a few of you. It's only a straw poll, nothing technically correct, and I was mildly embarrassed by it, actually. I didn't expect the reaction I got, because the general reaction was, are you seriously, as Daventry District Council, going to discuss that tonight? Is it important enough? I said, well, hang on a minute. Yes, it is. It's a motion put down. And yes, we are. And so the reaction, I said, well, what would you suggest then in that case? And the overwhelming reaction I got back was, we're interested in the services that are supplied. We're interested in the price of those services, the quality of them, the speed which Daventry, the officers respond, and so on and so on and so forth. So I took that on board. I thought, well, you know, that's what the people want. People that I spoke to, and that's a fairly small number. So I found there was very little interest in whether we used this word or that word, and I wouldn't want to go as far as trivialising it, but that was my reaction I got from the people. So my proposal is quite different. My proposal is very straightforward. I'm going to propose that we reject the motion, and I believe that listening to the people I've talked to, we should get on with rather more substantial items, like the UTC, like the Ashby Road, things of that nature. Absolutely, no, that's what we should be talking about. I think whether we call them customers, whether we call it, it's of no importance, in my opinion, and that's the direction I've got. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to second that proposition just made by Councillor Longley, and add that I believe that what the proposal is, in fact, is the language of the past. We haven't introduced the word customer lightly. We've introduced it to improve the relationship of our residents and this council. It's as simple as that.
We've had a proposal and a seconder, but of course we have to go back to the original motion. Do you wish to speak now, Councillor?
Yeah, I do, and I'd just like to say that I think the behaviour in here and not tonight has been absolutely appalling. And you know, and I think if many of the residents that you've spoken to listen to the recording of the meeting, they will find it appalling as well. And in fact, only this week, 3 different people have said to me, District Council, we've got the circus in town, it's like so many other things that you're discussing and how they want to spend their money. And if they listen to it tonight, I think that they would think that people are clowning around in this council chamber. This is supposed to be serious stuff that we're discussing, and whether you think that, you know, if somebody puts forward a motion, you listen to the motion and you vote on it. And, you know, there's so many other things here, important things that we should be discussing. And I am really, really appalled at the behaviour. So I'd like to second the motion. I think that we should do everything possible to try and engage with the customer, as it is now, and to try and make them feel like that they have got onus on decisions that we make. Even if it was something maybe to put in Daventry calling, perhaps put something, have a little thing in there. How would you like us to address you in the future? I mean, obviously our motion isn't going to be, it's going to be rejected just by listening to the comments, but you know, that's Councillor Ritchie's right and anybody else to put forward a motion to change things if they feel fit. Thank you.
Councillor Fraser-Allen.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the considerable waste of time and money that we're spending by arguing over this matter. However, I would also like to concur as how much would it cost for a change in semantics? And is that a good way for us to spend our budget? Because if we have to change our paperwork and all our documentation for the use of one word, that to me would be a considerable waste of money that we could go on spending on education that we've all talked about this evening.
Councillor Ritchie.
Chair, thank you. I got the impression that you were hesitant. Forgive me if I was wrong.
Yes, I was.
Well, I have an entitlement to reply to this debate, and I haven't found that it has been actually all that funny. We're dealing with serious issues here. Let me just respond to the last point that was raised first. I thought I said when I spoke originally that we were not proposing that there should be any big expenditure in this, that we're not proposing that documents be ripped up. But when it comes to the natural time for them to be reprinted, that one word is changed. But when any new documents come round to be written, they're going to be printed anyway. They're done so with the change in word. We're not talking about any great expense. Let me too mention the point that was raised by Councillor Longley. The response that Councillor Longley has got, that doesn't actually surprise me. We hugely value the people that take part in parish councils or in the town council in Daventry. Generally at a meeting you might get 20 people. I don't know how many meetings you've been at. Perhaps it was 5, perhaps it's 100 people. But your county division covers something like what? 8,000 people. 8,000, something of that order. My concern is not the people who do take part, who do vote, who do take part in consultations, but how do we actually engage with the people who do not? Now, a government's response to this, not that Labour government, but Conservative governments do, is that we introduce onto our curriculum citizenship education. Not customer education, but citizenship education, which is about the package of things that people need to know about to make them active citizens and responsible citizens. It's plugging into that agenda. We have the huge, great big debate about, what do we mean by British citizenship? How do we treat people who have come from other countries or perhaps don't quite fit in the same way that others do? The issues that come up are about citizenship. Again, all that some can think about will be citizenship and Citizen Smith and some of the soap operas from practically 50 years ago. Look, these are serious issues. There is serious research that has been done on these issues about how we make use of language to try to increase the engagement of people, to try to get them to recognize what their responsibilities are, what their roles are, what their status is in society. And I'm sorry if this council does not take that seriously. But I don't totally agree with my colleague, Councillor Randall. I think that she may have been wrong in suggesting that you're all going to vote against this.
Thank you. Well, we've got a proposal, we've got it seconded. I'd like to bring the discussion to a close. Can we have a vote on it? All those in favour of this motion? All those against? The motion falls. And the next item on the agenda is 8. reports of committees. These have been circulated: Planning Committee minutes, Scrutiny and Improvement Committee minutes, and Strategy Group minutes. Any points to raise on that? No. Next, item 9. Do you agree then?
I agree.
Item 9, recommendations of committees. Page 63 to 66.
Agreed.
First of all, recommendation SG 461701, the OVO Energy Women's Tour Report. Councillor Hills.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to raise some points, and some of it I did say strategy, but I think it's well worth repeating to full council. As you all know, the report and recommendations are following the women's cycle tour of the park that took place on the 7th of June. And from the comments and the information that I've received, there is no doubt that it was a qualified success. When I presented this report to the strategy, some comment was made that more events were needed. So firstly, I would like to address these issues. I would say, quite frankly, whatever you do, there's always sometimes a wish that you could do more. But just to give you some idea, recently we had the Cycle Fest. On the 6th of June, prior to the depart, we had the Fit Fest. We've had the free cinema in the country park, the Mop Fair, the Daventry Triathlon, the Motorcycle Festival, which was supported by the Town Council, and the very successful Food Festival put on by the Town Council. And I think everybody enjoyed that. And in the future, on the 19th of October, we have the prestigious Daventry Sports Awards in the Saxon Suite in the Leisure Centre. We can fill that place 2 or 3 times over when that takes part. Followed on the 31st of October by a Halloween fancy dress event in Country Park. So this is all in the space of within 2 to 3 months. So I think for a small council, I don't think we do badly. As to the depart, I stated at the strategy, this was a global event, also a sporting event, and more importantly, a community event. Following the event, I received many emails of support, plus the fact that when I went into town, on several occasions in town, from people stating how much they enjoyed it. It was not only supported in town, but along the route. And I have to say, very pleased that we got our preferred choice on this. We also got the agreement of the organisers for the competitors to go around the town twice, the first time it had ever been done. On the actual day, our young people and schools were very much involved. We had a pre-race cycle ride. The children were very evident at the start and along the route. They were there waving flags and shouting and clapping. But they had clappers as well. And also 10 schools were involved in producing murals. There was an impact assessment done by us, but we only had 9 replies. The figures that we produced, we didn't really take that much into account. We got from Sweet Spot an impact assessment. This showed a net visitor expenditure in Daventry of over £371,000. They used an independent consultancy which does many of these events, including some of the major cycle tours, a company called Frontline. I would like to repeat my thanks to the officers for their hard work and support. And I name 3. One was Simon Bovey, who with me attended the steering group meetings. And this was followed by afternoon briefings at the DDC. And also Katie Jones and Emma Parry, who were prepared to go the extra mile to help make this the success it was. And I feel it would be remiss of me if I did not pay tribute to Councillor Wayne Howard, our Access and Communications portfolio holder, who together with officers promoted the event as part of our Love Daventry campaign. As I said at strategy, it proves if you work together, you have a common aim, it can and is in most cases successful. We are in the bidding for next year. We should have a bit more time this year than last. Plus, if you like, a bit more experience. And if we are successful, I think that will help. It's worth noting that because of our success, because it went all around the country, and I believe that we have a good chance of hosting the depart or the finish. But there will be more councils applying as a result of the publicity that we achieve. And if we have success, I would say this is your chance for you as members to get involved with your parish councils and your schools, which could be another success in promoting sporting activities and promoting Daventry District itself. Therefore, I would ask all members to support the recommendations. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. There's a seconder for this.
Sorry, Chairman, I'm happy to second that.
Thank
And
you.
I welcome the report regarding the income for the event during that period. Thank you, Chairman.
So propose a second, all in favour?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, I mean, we've heard a lot about budgets this evening, and £50,000 to be set aside, I can't agree to, I'm afraid. We've heard Councillor Hills mention some of the events that were put on, and most recently in Daventry we had the food festival that was put on for less than £1,000, and the town was absolutely thriving. The motorcycle festival, absolutely thriving, less than £3,000. £50,000 that, although you said brought revenue in, when I've spoken to businesses, it hasn't brought revenue in to people within the town. So I'm sorry, £50,000, I don't know where the £50,000, what it was actually, the breakdown and what it was spent on, but we have got residents across the whole of the district, it's coming out of their money, because it is their money, and 50,000 for a return on who it benefits. Sorry, no, I won't agree with this.
Councillor Amy Harris.
Yes, thanks, Chair. May I ask, what are our chances of getting the start or the finish on day one of the tour?
Thank you. I'd like to thank Councillor Howard for her interest, because I know that as a town councillor she's very interested in young people and also in promoting the district. Yes, we have a good chance. I would be wrong to say to you we are definitely going to get it, but we have a good chance, we have to bid for it. And I think, in a way, we were perhaps a little bit victims of our own success, because as I said, due to our success and the publicity that we see, we've got more people now applying. But I feel this, yes, we spent money, we showed that within the district, on the figures that we were given, 371,000 plus. If I was a business, I'd be saying, by Christ, let me, excuse my French, let me have some of that. Let's see how we can get some of that. Now, when Randall was talking about Councillor Randall, talking about the businesses she's spoken to, well, prior to the event, Simon Bovey picked up the phone and talked to many businesses. I went round and visited businesses. And if she would like to give me a list of all those she's spoken to and what their comments are, then I'm quite happy to go around and talk to them again. I don't think I can be fairer than that. So that's where I come from on this. I think it's money that was well spent. If you increase the economy of an area, there's an economic benefit in most cases to most people. And that's where we get the return. Plus, we as a council, we're asked to sponsor and help physical activity and to tackle obesity. And this is one of the ways that we can do it, by investing and helping our young people at events like this. Yes, some of the events don't cost a lot of money. That's it. I think this was money well spent, and I hope that all members of this chamber will agree with me by supporting the recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
I'll take one final speaker, Councillor Bunting.
Thank you, Chair. As a councillor representing a parish ward, not a Daventry ward, I actually welcomed the cycle into the county, into the district, because for once I'm not listening to a conversation that is very Daventry focused. Even when you read the economic report, it's about the Daventry town, and yet I know when the tour came through my village, the local shops also benefited. The young people got out there and they enjoyed it and they were motivated to cycle, they were motivated to get active. And it's very rare that we talk about investment beyond the Daventry town. And for once there is some halo effect of investment in Daventry coming out to the outlying villages. I'd also like to ask the portfolio holder, who when he spoke most eloquently earlier, he said that the tour was a qualified success. If the results of a return on investment of 7-1 in Daventry town is a qualified success, could you tell me what an unqualified success? Rhetorical.
I think, to me, an unqualified success is that on the day, we'd hardly had anybody turn up, and that the organisers who came back to us and said, this was the best depart we've had, congratulations, and turned around and said, well, I don't think much of that, I don't think we can support it again. So therefore, to me, it's a qualified success. We've got a return on our investment, we've got our young people engaged, we've got the public engaged, and we promoted the district, not just the town, the district, and we got our choice of route, which went through some of the villages. We got that, and we got them to go through the town twice. Something that we achieved by being on the steering group. So I think, yes, to me, it's a qualified success.
Yeah. That note, we'll now put this to the vote. Had a proposal, been seconded. All those in favour?
Agree.
Any against? The next recommendation is SG 461702, Rural, Sport and Leisure. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a brief one, but it's still a serious one. Sport and leisure play a very important role within my portfolio, and it must include the rural areas. I commend this report to you. It is well written, and I endorse it. From the tables you have seen, the proposals and the recommendations, I feel sure is something that all members can and should support. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. This, of course, has come from my work on the Scrutiny and Improvement Committee. I'd like to go on record as thanking Councillor Alan Hills for his immense support during my time in putting together the report. He invited me along to the Daventry District Sports Awards, which was a great event, and actually gave me a superb insight into the amount of work that the District Council does, not just in the town to support sport and promoting fitness activity, but also in the rural areas, which of course was the focus of my report. when I set out on this task panel, I half expected to see a distinct lack of support for sport in rural areas. However, what I found was actually a district council very much engaged in promoting fitness and well-being outside of Daventry town, and ultimately I've made some possibly modest recommendations to try and improve on what we're already doing and hopefully further our achievements in that area. And I hope we have the support of council this evening on the recommendations in front of you.
Are you seconding it?
I am seconding it, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Chair. Good to hear some sensible debate at this board meeting now. First of all, I'd like to also give my support. Obviously, it's come from scrutiny, and to thank Councillor Brown for his tremendous effort on working this through the system. And again, hopefully a good demonstration of the work we can do in scrutiny by our minds. Thank you very much for his contribution. And I think it's also a testament, actually, particularly to the drive of Councillor Hills and his agenda, and again, as witnessed from the previous item. And again, Councillor Hills, thank you for moving this forward, and again, a good contribution to this district's activity in this area. Thank you. Give my support.
Councillor Miller.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on the back of Councillor Bunting's earlier comment, I hope you can get to the Sports Awards if you can this year. I think it's 2 weeks tonight, Chairman. It's the 19th of October. Because that shows you the display of activities, sport activities. And I know your particular professional interest, Councillor Bunting. It's quite remarkable what a great district it is and what goes on across the district, not just in Daventry Town, in terms of rural sport and leisure activities. So anyone who can make that event 2 weeks tonight, I really recommend they go to it. It's normally very well attended, and I think it's really well received by communities and schools. Thank you, Chairman.
I have a proposal and a seconder. All those in favour of this recommendation?
Agreed.
Any against? Right, then we move on to SG 47-1701, Equalities and Equal Opportunities Progress Report. Councillor Griffith.
Thank you, Chairman. As discussed at Strategy Group, we have a statutory duty to report on our progress with the Disability Competence Scheme. I asked members to agree a growth bid to cover an external validation. The scheme and plan clarifies our current situation and our travel along this path. Members will have been interested to know some of the partners that we've been working with. For instance, amongst others, the County Travellers Unit, the Daventry District Forum, the County Hate Forum. Security and Improvement have also contributed their reports on homelessness and in particular communication, which will be very useful. I ask for the Council's support. Thank you, Chairman.
Do you have a seconder for that? Councillor.
Thank you. No, nothing to offer.
A proposal and a seconder. All in favour?
Agreed.
Any against? Moving on. SG 47-1702, Councillor Learning and Development. Councillor Irving Swift.
Thank you, Chairman. I will be brief. I would ask you to recommend, to accept this recommendation. I would like to say that this year we have decided that we will promote very heavily e-learning. So you will have noted that the new HR officer has been working very hard, and we have now, 2 weeks before your session, you have a teaser, you have a plan, and we would ask you to accept or decline if you are coming to the session, so it will help us to assure that we have the number of participants. We have increased the number of participants this year. On average, it's 40 counsellors per session. I think we can do better. I would go to do better. Even the ones who think they have done it in place of working, so it's very important for you to see how we do it, because your knowledge will ensure that we progress in our knowledge. And finally, when you go to the website now, you can access directly your member development. So those three key development have taken place this year, so I would be very happy to recommend this report. Thank you.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Carter. All in favour?
Agreed.
Any against? Next, SG 471703, Councillor Learning and Development Policy. Councillor Urban-Swift.
Thank you again, Chairman. I will be very brief. I hope you have all read the changes, and I will recommend them. Thank you so much.
Do you have a second? Councillor Carter.
Can I speak, please, Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you. Just to thank Councillor Urban-Swift, because I am part of her small but effective team of Councillor Learning and Development, and we work quite hard, and certainly Councillor Urban-Swift has worked hard to try and encourage this type of ongoing learning, to keep abreast of all legislation that comes our way, and I will certainly try and attend as many training sessions as it's possible. I know a lot of you can't for whatever reason, but I do encourage the e-learning side of things, so you can do that from the comfort of your own laptop. Thank you, Chairman.
So I have proposed and a second. All in favour?
Agreed.
Any against? Moving on then to SG 471704, LGA Peer Challenge. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The LGA Peer Challenge, for those who don't know, the Local Government Association obviously represents all councils in the country. And the idea of peer challenges, you have a team come into the council consisting of normally senior members and senior officers and other staff who actually come in to look at what goes on over a 3-day period, maybe Chairman, 3 or 4 days maximum. And at the end of it, they present a presentation to councillors to say what's going well, what's not going so well, and some ideas for improvement. It's quite extraordinary, Chairman, that when you see these in action, how much they pick up in a very short space of time about the council they're visiting. They have information in advance of the actual visit. And normally most councils do this every now and again. Now, we haven't done one for a long, long time. And I recognise with our merry-go-round as Deputy Chief Executive at the moment with Simon Bobby over the borough. And we've got John Campbell, very grateful to have John here, as the former Chief Executive of Wellingborough. Very pleased to have him on our team at the moment while Simon's over on the Northampton Borough. And of course, what we're not aware of, Chairman, is what's going to happen with Simon after the 6 months of common. So I'm going to suggest actually, but also I think it's quite important to get a peer challenge in as soon as we can. So I'm just going to make a slight change to the recommendation saying by 2019. I'm hoping we could get a peer challenge in 2018 if it's possible, but obviously these do take up a bit of time for senior officer time. But it's well worthwhile if senior members and other members, because all members will be involved in this process if they wish to be, and have their say, to try and help the council move forward overall on everything. It's not just it's not about political agenda, it's actually about how the council operates. So if I could put that slight amendment in and put the recommendation to council, Chairman. Thank you.
Do you have a second? Councillor Richard Orr.
Yeah, I'm happy to second this. You know, having had a chance to do a peer review at in Essex when I was commander in the police, and we went over and looked at the council. It has incredible benefits, not only for experience to be involved in one, but also for the recipient who actually gets feedback. It is this critical friend that they become, a critical friend. This council is pretty well run, but you'll be surprised at what will come up. It will make us better, it will improve some of our areas, it will make us more effective and efficient, and I look forward, I hope it can happen next year, and I hope we can move forward from that point onwards. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. Just wanted to comment that this process is based on the same model as the model that I operated for 13 years working for the Quality Assurance Agency for Higher Education in England, visiting universities, in that the institution being visited is invited to submit information about what they think they're doing and how well they think they're doing it. They are then visited by a team who've read that, who find out how they're actually doing in terms of a peer review, and they get a brief report. The people who do the work very hard for those 2 or 3 days, but you need to listen very carefully to what they say, and it's well worth doing, and please everybody enter into it in the spirit in which it is meant, because there is a lot of value to be gained from it.
Thank you. Any other? Right, we've had a first and a seconder. All in favour? Moving on then to SG 481701, Environmental Health and Housing Enforcement Policy. Councillor Auger.
Thank you, Chair. This policy has had a good area of strategy, and every member has had a chance to read the policy, so I will not take too much of your time. But I do want to highlight just a couple of points. The primary objective of this policy is to achieve regulatory compliance, and this is done to protect the health and safety and environment interests of the public, and to ensure that those seeking assistance in housing needs do not submit fraudulent applications. I want to reassure my council colleagues and the public that where it becomes necessary to take formal action against a business or member of the public, this council will do so. As you're also aware from the policy that there are a wide range of tools available to the council, ranging from no action to court action, the latter being the most serious. Enforcement decisions will be fair, independent and objective, and will not be influenced by personal characteristics, and will not be affected by improper or undue pressure from any source. I therefore ask the Council to agree this environmental health and housing enforcement policy to help ensure a consistent approach to investigation, decision making and enforcement action.
Thank you. Councillor Ward. Second that?
I'll second that.
No one wishes to speak. Well, we've got a first and a seconder. All in favour? Moving on, SG 491701, proposed sub-national transport body. Councillor Poole.
Thank you, Chairman. There is a proposal, or emerging proposal for a sub-national transport body, STB. Let's get the acronyms in at the beginning. For the area known as England's economic heartland, commonly known as the Oxford-Cambridge corridor. And we, if you look at the proposals, are putting forward the suggestion that we should be part of that. We are in a very fortunate position in Daventry. We have the best of both worlds. We've got Midlands Connect to our north, where many of our companies in Daventry do business with. Midlands Connect authorities, LEPs, government-led. Many of our neighbours in Warwickshire, Leicester, we do business with. So that is one way of looking, which is north. If we look south, we're now sandwiched between the two. We've now got the Oxford-Cambridge corridor for benefit for all. Our neighbours that we do business with in the south, so we have the best of both worlds. Companies within Daventry can trade up or trade down, whatever the case may be. And it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a win-win situation. If I may, far be it from me to diverse, but how many people had a Lilo? How many people had a Hoover? How many people had a Biro? What's that got to do with the price of fish? Lilo is a trade name. Hoover is a trade name. Biro is a trade name. What is the sports got to do with Daventry? What has the cycle tour got to do with Daventry? Daventry is the trade name. It's the trade name that gets out there. It's the trade name that gives you a positive agenda going forward and encourages inward investment. I'll put these recommendations to Council. Thank you.
Do you have a seconder?
Yes.
Councillor Osborne. Right, we've proposed, been seconded. No one to speak. Put it to the vote. All in favour?
Agreed.
Moving on to SG 491702, lease of shop mobility premises, New Street, Daventry. Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Chairman. Even briefer. Approval is sought to enter into a new lease agreement with Shop Mobility in Daventry. Many members attended their Queen's Award, which was well and truly deserved. They do this town a tremendous service. They want to expand. No doubt my colleague on the left has an interest in the matter, yeah. But well and truly deserved. They're extending their premises, and I would put this to council. Thank you.
Councillor Charter.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to second the proposal, although I'm on the right, not the left, as my colleague jolly well knows. The Shop Mobility Centre and its proposed expansion to provide support for users of mobility products provides a really vital service to the town and the district, and I'm all for encouraging its growth and expansion. I'm happy to second the motion, Chairman. Thank you.
All in favour?
Agreed.
Moving on to SG 50501701, depot enhancement, High March, Daventry. Councillor Shepherd.
Chairman, thank you. Councillor Gilbert asked me to mention this report as she has to leave. It's really an audit point that we were discussing at the strategy group. The Constitution requires that any capital scheme or project included within the appropriate capital programme with a total budget exceeding 250,000 must be given specific detailed scheme approval by the council. And that is what we ask you to do today. The specific scheme approval for the expenditure in excess of 40 million, the expenditure proposed is 2.5 million in the budget. A business plan must be submitted and approved as part of this process, and strategy group had before it a detailed business plan for the depot enhancement at High March. Chairman, we must not forget that it is 35 weeks only to go. So we have a new freighter, 35 weeks, just around the corner. So we need to get on with this. So the recommendation is there to approve the business plan and give specific scheme approval.
Thank you. Councillor Poole.
Yes, happy to second it, Chairman, and confirm that work is ongoing at a pace, and I think we'll be there in the 34 weeks required. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Miller? We've had a proposal and a seconder. All in favour?
Agreed.
Any against? Right. I need recommendations. SG 511702, 2018 to 2019, capital and revenue budget and medium-term financial plan. Councillor Shepherd.
Thank you, Chairman. A plug before I introduce this subject, if I may. We were talking about e-learning earlier. At scrutiny, no, not what's your committee? Corporate Governance Committee the other day, we considered the 16-17 accounts. And although I don't invite members to read 94 pages of them, pages 5 to 14, these accounts are increasingly user-friendly, more user-friendly than they used to be. And pages 5 to 14, frankly, should, in my respectful submission, be pretty well compulsory reading. They're a very easy read, and they give a 9-page overview of the Council's financial position. So I do commend members to go to the corporate governance papers in the website and read those 9 pages. Turning to the specific recommendation here, the first 3 elements of that recommendation, numbers 1, 2 and 3, these really reflect the fact that we are in a period of relative stability, centred upon the 4-year government settlement that we enjoy at the present time, reflected by the fact that these 3 recommendations are pretty well unchanged from last year. The first, that the financial strategy be approved. I thought it was actually quite useful to have this before members to remind members of the financial principles that we use when budgeting. So on your desk in front of you is actually Appendix A, which is the financial strategy recommended for approval by Strategy Group. That is identical to last year with the addition of the final bullet point. So we proposed going forward with the same principles. The restricted growth criteria bid we approved, that's very modest, and the assumptions and proposals concerning the financial strategy and development of the next budget year, again, very, very similar to last year. There was a small technical in growth bid for this year of no net effect. Otherwise, there's no net increase proposed. Now, the significant matter that we discussed at Strategy Group was the ongoing discussions concerning the retained business rate pilot. Retained NNBR business rate is critical to our ongoing financial success. It's absolutely critical. It represents getting on for 40% of our base funding for the current year. Base funding 15 million, getting on for 6 million of NNDR, possibly a bit more than that actually this year. But there is an ongoing debate with all the other councils in the county in response to a submission that we put into government to join in a pool. And there are going to be significant benefits of this. Now, the debate is so ongoing that we're not able today to commit one way or the other to a resolution, and so members are invited to ask the delegation that is there, identified as item 5. Now, the financial officer has been, the chief executive, as I understand it, has been in discussions with all the other councils, and it's a feature of this particular formula process that everyone's got to agree, which is not necessarily easy. But anyway, Audra Statham is going to bring us completely up to date on what's been happening since Strategy Group.
Do you have a second? Councillor Miller, do you wish to speak?
No, that's fine.
Thank you, Chair. There's been many constructive meetings so far between all the Northants finance officers. The actual application itself must be signed off by the 151 officer. And to that end, I've been meeting with all the other finance officers. I am pleased to report that all councils within the county are positively engaging in order to come to an agreement, in particular with regard to how any monies are split between the 2 tiers of the county and the rest of the authorities within the county. Due diligence is now taking place to analyse the actual makeup of each council's business customers, to assess the risks going forward, to assure any assumed income is robust, including any growth assumptions that we make. This is particularly important given the removal of the no detriment clause in any new pilots that go forward, which means there's an added risk in there in terms of the income and whether it's achieved or not. Officers have met with officers at CLG today, and I'm expecting some feedback from that next week, because as well as sort of all the work being put together for the application, we wanted to meet with CLG to get a flavour of what they're expecting to see to give us the best chance of this pilot bid being successful. Because we have sort of had discussions with them that not all pilots will be successful because there simply isn't enough money for them to all be approved. So it will be quite a competitive process. That said, we're in a very strong position. We already have the pooling arrangements where we can show good governance, and what each council is doing now is putting forward all the things that we've been doing with those monies, both in the past and what we intend to do in the future. I would just remind members that this particular pilot is for 1 year only, but we're hoping that once we're in, that'll give us a good step going forward as well, if that is continued. Evidence so far from all the work that I've been doing with finance officers is that I will be sort of recommending to both the leader of the council, the chief exec and the portfolio holder, is that it is highly likely that we would join a pilot and make the application.
Order, thank you. The urgency is that the deadline for the application is the 27th of October. And of course we don't have another meeting before that date, hence the requirement, hence the request for the authority per the recommendation.
Well, we've had a proposal and a seconder. Anyone else wishes to speak or put it to the vote? All those in favour?
Agreed.
We now move on to agenda item number 10 to note the following appointments. First of all, to appoint Councillor Mike Warren as the Chairman of the Licensing Committee in place of Councillor Anne Carter. Secondly, to appoint Councillor Richard Auger as the Housing and Environmental Health Portfolio Holder in place of Councillor Mike Warren. And thirdly, Councillor Malcolm Longley to shadow Councillor Colin Poole as the Economic Regeneration and Employment Portfolio.
Chairman, just before you invite anyone else to speak on this, it does need a decision of council. It's not just a matter of noting, these need to be approved. Certainly the changes to committee members needs to be approved.
Thank you.
Well, thank you on the point of Tony Chinnett. Sorry, I don't want to get you there, Tony, sorry. Don't go there. Now, I just want to say, I mean, I'm happy to propose it then on that basis, but I just want to make a comment actually. I mean, Mike Warren actually ideally to replace Anne Carter as the chair of licensing with his background, professional background, and also been vice chair for many years. I really want to say a special thank you to Councillor Carter, who's chaired licensing over many, many years. And you become our expert, and I know the only reason you're not there anymore, or won't be there shortly, is because your personal circumstances changing. But I just want to say thank you on behalf of the council for your excellent efforts, and we're sure that you'll still be around for a bit, I know, until next May. But I just want to say on this point, because I actually have done an excellent job. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Can we have a seconder for that? Councillor Barrowford. All those in favour? Agreed. Duly appointed. Item 11, appointments to outside bodies. Daventry North Liaison Board. Councillor Shepherd? Councillor Miller, sorry.
Sorry, Chairman, yes, because obviously Councillor Guilford will be doing this normally, like Councillor Shepherd said she has to leave the meeting early tonight. I just want to confirm, Councillor Guilford's been in touch with all the parties in this council, including Catherine Lomax, who's not in the party as such, on the group I should say, sorry, she's in this bench, to confirm the 5 names that are going to go on to this particular Norse board, and it will be quite an important board, Chairman, to make sure we oversee the new operation. The names are Councillor Wayne Howard, Councillor Deanna Eden, Councillor Adam Brown, Councillor Catherine Lomax and Councillor Wendy Randall. They're the 5 names proposed to the full board to council. Thank you.
Seconded for that. Councillor Richard Wilson. There are 2 appointments. Councillor Auger taking over. On outside bodies.
Oh, sorry, the outside bodies. My apologies. Yes, sorry. I do apologise, Chairman. Yes, just bear with me a second. Yes, sorry, my apologies. The 2 outside bodies that Councillor Warren was on previously, which is maybe got there, so it's actually the Councillor Alder will take those positions over from Councillor Mike Warren.
The Health and Adult Care and Social Wellbeing Scrutiny Committee and Futures Housing Group Insight Committee.
That's right, they're the ones, Chairman, yeah.
Fine,
so Councillor Alder will actually replace Councillor Warren on those. Yeah. Thank you for that reminder.
Yeah, we need a proposal. A second. Seconded Colin. And then finally we move on to urgent business. Consider any other item which the chairman decides is urgent. Notice which has been given in writing to the chief executive prior to the commencement of the meeting. And I have concludes the meeting.